Hello everyone, and welcome to the lecture, The Fifth P of Marketing Purpose. This lecture is held as part of the event Global Entrepreneurship Week Split 2020. Your lecturer today is Michael Freer, Englishman who has been living in Split since 2015, an economist dedicated to the promotion and development of social entrepreneurship, as well as support to startups and the permaculture scene. He owns Sensoko, a consulting company that helps others run social enterprises. If you have any questions, you can write them in the chat or Q&A session, or just leave them in the comment section on our Facebook page. Now I will leave you to Michael.
Perfect. Thank you, Zvone. Thank you for that introduction. Cool. Yeah, welcome everyone. I've got a presentation to share with you this evening. I'll be flicking in and out of the presentation. So for now, let me get that up. And here we go. Brilliant. Yeah, so as Zvone said, tonight we'll be talking about a bit about marketing and purpose, how to market your purpose, your raison d'être. A bit about me, first of all. Yep, I've lived here for 5 years now. Live in Dalmatia and run Ensoko. And Zvone actually, yeah, you just explained everything that you needed to. So I work with Croatian and English clients, looking at early stage social enterprises. If you don't know what a social enterprise is, then you can go and research afterwards or get in touch and I'll tell you exactly what it is. And I also work with schools here and then work with local udruga in developing their income streams. As part of social enterprise, it's looking at your purpose and why you exist as a business, normally an environmental or a social reason, which is why I'm able to talk to you about purpose and marketing your purpose today. So we're going to start by thinking about marketing. If anyone's watching and they studied at Studentski facultet, then you should know the answers to this. So either on Facebook or in the Zoom chat or wherever you can, I want you to name all the P's of marketing. Go. Lana, you got to tell me what's coming through. Have we got any P's yet? Do people know their P's? So when I studied, there were only 4, and then it went up to 5. Good. Product. We got the, yeah, there we go. We got the first 4, the product, place, promotion, and price. Good. And then apparently there's 8 of them now. So can we guess at the others at all? Not purpose, you know that. Okay, I've given you that one. Any others at all? Any others? No? No one wants to guess? Okay, so now there are more P's, right? There's process, packaging, positioning, people, and the one I want to speak to you about today is purpose. Now, when we think about purpose, this is nothing new. This is something that's existed for a long time. However, its meaning has changed over time. So let's cast our minds back before some of you were born to the 70s and the 80s, where there'd be adverts like this. So McDonald's showing their purpose, you know, more than 55% of your daily protein needs and a higher level of many vitamins and minerals than the average Australian meal. Who knows what the Australians were eating back then? But apparently McDonald's gave you more vitamins and minerals. It was the healthy, for the health conscious out there, you'd have a McDonald's. Look how healthy it looks. Then you've got Coca-Cola. Look at that. Back in the day, they were way ahead. This is the bottle for the age of ecology. So what the world needs today are containers that recycle. So they introduced the glass bottle. Well, we can see how well they're doing today with their initiative of ecology, seeing plastic bottles everywhere, right? Although they have improved over the last few years. And let's check this one out. This is one of my favorites. If you've got asthma, then smoke. Because it will give you the temporary relief of the paroxysms of asthma. And it also effectively treats asthma, hay fever, foul breath, all diseases of the throat, head colds, canker sores, and bronchial irritations. but not recommended for children under 6. So yeah, purpose existed before, trying to get consumers to buy products because of what they're promoting, a healthy lifestyle or a better ecological world. But we've changed. We've definitely changed, thankfully. In 2020, I'm a millennial. We've seen a real shift in consumer habits. And what do consumers want? What kind of brands do they want? So 83% of millennials, apparently according to one study, want a brand to align with their values. So if they are pro-democracy, they want their brand to be pro-democracy. If they are climate change lovers, in a way, that sounds a bit wrong, but they also want their brand to be that as well. And 73% of them would pay extra for sustainable brands. So it's not just about wanting a brand to align with their values, it's also about being willing to pay an extra however much, knowing that their brand was sustainable, both for people and for the planet. Okay, it's going to come back to you again, so get ready. You're probably not actually looking at me anyway. You're probably on Facebook or something. So you remember this, right? This was, well, it's existed for a while now, but you'll remember that during coronavirus, Interspar was like, do you know what, guys? We're going to start selling local products. Great. Well, you should be doing that already. But as you know, everyone was like, oh, yeah, it's a great campaign. Yeah, well, I'm going to go to Interspar. I'm going to buy local products now because they're selling it to me. Even though it existed on Pazar and on Facebook Marketplace for a long time, suddenly Interspar were doing something with a bit of purpose. So we're all in, most of us are in Croatia. I don't know who else is out there. You can look at the names and guess. But I want you to now go onto your Facebook feed or your Instagram feed and tell me what adverts pop up. So I'm going to come out as well. I'm going to look on my Facebook feed and see what adverts are there. So let me get my Facebook up and see if there's anything that's trying to sell us a bit of purpose. I'll also go on Instagram as well. Now, there should really be stuff with purpose on my feed because I look for that stuff. So here we go, going down. What's the first advert that pops up? Okay, the first one is from Kaufland with a Poklonbon with Father Christmas. Okay, not really interested in that. Post what you see as well. Post what you see in Facebook or in Zoom. So whatever you see on your feed, please post it so we can see what we're going. Dobartek. Okay, Lana. Obviously, you're always looking for delivery because you don't have enough time to cook for yourself because you're so busy at SPI, right? What else do I see on my feed? Class growth, online courses, creators, class growth. So education, not really much purpose going on though. And I've also got Visit Zaprasic. Who would have known that they're doing a tourist promotion at this time of year? So yeah, bit of promotion there. There's SPI as well. And lots of food and drink. So a bit like Lana, lots of food and drink. Bracelets, someone's got bracelets. What kind of bracelets are they? Any others? Zone, what's on your feed? I'm going to scroll down Facebook now and see what the first thing. Oh, okay. Rent a local business. What else is going to come up down here? Agorize, impact the future of mobility. There we go. If you have an innovative vision of what transportation will be in 2025 and want to be a driving force. So challenging startups. So yeah, lots of food. We've got Kaufland as well, online education. Nothing to do with purpose, right? Nothing at all. Okay. So purpose isn't out today. Now on YouTube, I often get lots of adverts around how to feed kids around the world. And also donations to kind of, you know, when people need extra money or actually need some money to pay for health. So maybe I'm a bit more profiled on my YouTube listening rather than based on the music I listen to and my age compared to on Instagram. Okay, we're going to go back to the presentation. Keep sharing. And Lana, if anyone puts anything on Facebook, then please share it here. Okay, back to, here we go. Okay, so what's on your feed? So as we've kind of seen, you know, you don't see McDonald's pushing well, we haven't seen right now. We've seen Kaufland, we've seen Dobartek. We haven't seen a McDonald's advert like before. Definitely nobody promoting smoking as a cure to asthma, and Coca-Cola not banging on about their glass bottles today. And that's because, as I mentioned earlier, we've changed a lot. Because now we have access to all of this. So when it comes to marketing, you have to be careful. You have to be really careful about what you put online, and you have to be really careful about what people can find out about you, either through disgruntled customers, angry old employees. Everyone likes a whistleblower or a leak these days, for good reasons in most of the cases. And people can, take a photo, shoot a video straight away, put it online. And these things are coming from all over the world. So when you're thinking about marketing your purpose, don't make a few mistakes like these guys have. This, first of all, is H&M. Everyone knows who H&M are. And here they are with H&M Conscious for a more sustainable fashion future. Don't let fashion go to waste. Well, it's funny that a company that makes its money from fast fashion could say this, right? They go through about 12 lines a year, constantly pushing new lines on you, trying to get people to buy more and more, wear something 3 times. I don't know what you do after that. Do you give it to a secondhand shop, or do you keep it in your winter wardrobe? I'm not sure, but let's look at a few headlines. And these are in the national press. So this isn't even thinking about what's online, what's on social media, what disgruntled employees are saying. So here we've got now H&M alongside Primark and Nike are under pressure to ensure workers are paid, because they ordered everything based on selling. Suddenly they realized coronavirus wasn't going to sell, so now they're cancelling orders and refusing to pay. You may have heard about the building, the factory in Dhaka, a few years ago now, that collapsed, and they were producing garments for a number of companies. And then the favorite one at the bottom, H&M burns up to 12 tons of clothes per year. Now, H&M responded to this, and they said that they only burnt clothes that had too much lead in them to be sold, or were defective and couldn't be sold. But here they are saying, don't let fashion go to waste. It doesn't really match up. Yeah, so here you are thinking about purpose as a marketing tool. Well, you need it to match up, right? Then we've got Volkswagen. Now, I don't know how many of you saw this before, but it was about smart diesel. Yeah, smart diesel. So diesel is something that apparently we're moving away from, is now not smart, sorry, clean diesel. Clean diesel. So something that apparently we're moving away from is actually clean. Diesel has really cleaned up its act. And here you see Volkswagen, promoting diesel despite the changes that are coming up, talking about how it impacts fuel efficiency and being a more eco-conscious choice. Now, again, let's look at some headlines linked to Volkswagen. A couple here. You can find more if you go on to social media and stuff, but these are from, again, mainstream press, highly visible, seen by a lot of people. Certain amount of research goes into them. Obviously, newspapers do lie as well, for whichever reasons. First one is about China Muslims in the Xinjiang plant, about forced labor. Obviously, it's really hard to control your suppliers, but it all comes down to how much you want to. And in this one, it says that there's no forced labor at Xinjiang plant. If you read the article a bit more, the guy actually says that he can't promise that there's no forced labor there. And then underneath, you've got this, it was actually huge thing to do with this these diesel tests, where VW installed defeat devices to subvert emissions tests. And now they're going through loads of court cases, payouts, and it wasn't just them doing that. It was some other companies as well. So here they are saying that they're eco-conscious, and then at the same time, they're being caught out that they're actually producing worse emissions in some areas. So when it comes to marketing your purpose, you've really got to think long and hard. We know people now, you know, you don't just put a post in the newspaper like McDonald's used to, and everyone's, oh, okay, that's healthy for us, or, you know, those cigarettes help my asthma. It's not like that anymore, because everyone has access to a whole wealth of information. So let's have a look at how to actually do it. In English, we say the proof is in the pudding. So I put something that's a bit like pudding below. So first of all, forget the buzzwords. In every sector, in every industry, and in every kind of fad or trend, there are buzzwords. We call it greenwashing when a company tries to say that they're doing good stuff for the environment, or in some cases, we can apply it a bit to society. There's a few other words as well we use, but really they're not. They're just using it to try and to basically to sell you their product, to make you think that it's good to buy their product, or at least to give you more of a reason to buy it. So, you know, H&M, oh, I know that they're fast fashion, but they have got this sustainable range now, that kind of thing. So a few words that you'll see here, and we can come up with these words everywhere else. Earth-friendly, non-toxic, certified green. Obviously, you can get lots of things are certified, right? There's Fair Trade, there's Rainforest Alliance, there's SA 8000, there's heaps of them. But knowing who they are is tricky sometimes. There are the global ones, which are a bit easier to track, and you can see exactly what goes into it. But there's a few other people that copied the global certification and made, say, a local one in again, greenwashing to try and fool you. For example, there might be, I'm trying to think what is it Fair Trade or maybe it's organic? I can't remember which one it is, but there's one where if a factory is certified, it just shows that it's the material used is, say, Fair Trade. However, the workers may not be treated well. So there's a few of these cases where you really have to research about these certified, whatever they are. Chemical free, you'll hear that a few times, which is interesting. And then you've got a few other ones, bio, natural, and eco. So we see here a lot of eco products. We use organic a lot more in the UK than eco-friendly products or organic food. But actually knowing whether it's organic or not is another story. And then again, it comes back to trusting the people telling you if it's a certification, whether you trust it or not. But generally speaking, if somebody's gone through a bit more of a rigorous process, you're hoping that they've gone through something. You know, it's not just for fun. And when you meet someone in the street selling their, I don't know, their cabbage or their carrots, and they tell you it's organic, unless you've been to their place and seen what they're doing on their land, you can't really tell. So I know a lot of Baba and Dida here say, oh yeah, oh, eco, sve eco. But actually, a lot of the time, they're still using chemicals from 30 years ago, which are far from being eco. So how do we get around this? Well, we've got to find the brands that we can really trust. And that, as part of that, there's a few kind of rules of marketing your purpose. First one of those is ensuring your values run deep. So whatever you want to, whatever your purpose is, whatever you've decided your purpose is, you've got to make sure that everyone's on board. And this we'll see the examples now. This starts with your staff. So here we have a quote from Patagonia, who believe that they are a family-run, family-style business. So Patagonia in their head offices and in a few other offices as well around the world, they have childcare for all of their staff. Before, right in the beginning, their staff would bring their kids with them to work, and it would be fine. But then, as more and more people were having babies, it was starting to be obvious that they needed something like this. Peace of mind. It could be a subsidized service. And ultimately, it serves Patagonia as well. It serves them as something that will keep their staff highly motivated, keep them with the values of being family-style business. Because if you read more about Patagonia, if you don't know who they are, they're an outdoor clothing company and outdoor equipment company. When you read more about their values, like flexible working, they believe in flexible working. When you've got work to do, you get it done. And if you want to go surfing, you go surfing. If you want to go climbing, you go climbing. Because those kind of things you can't wait for if there's going to be good waves or if the weather's good enough to go hiking. You do that when the weather's right, whereas work is always there. So as long as you get your work done, it doesn't matter when you do it. And that's the way that's one of the ways they work, as well as making everyone feel part of the business through different perks with healthcare and with creches and with team away days, team building, all of that stuff. And then they go one step further by providing migrant worker standards and guidance. So this was for their Taiwan-based suppliers. So we talked about suppliers before. We talked about in Bangladesh with H&M. When you've got such a large supply chain, it is really hard to manage what's going on. But Patagonia have a very hands-on approach. They don't leave it down to certificates. They actually have their own in-house certification and also kind of looking at how other suppliers meet their standards. And in this case, they saw that in Taiwan, and there's a lot of migrant workers in Taiwan that weren't necessarily being treated properly. And so they created this book, which was basically standards and guidance on how to do it. Very clear, this is what you have to do if you're working with migrant workers. I haven't read what's in this, but I do know it was on the back of something which we'll touch onto later. So the values run through the company, whether they are their direct employees or they're employees of their suppliers. They're trying to have standards, and they're trying to brand. They're trying to ensure the brand and the purpose of Patagonia runs throughout the company. And once that's done, you can be consistent. You can be consistent with what you do. You can get your staff on board, and therefore you can get your customers to really know who you are as an organization. They really know your purpose. So Patagonia a few years ago, just before Black Friday, which is coming up, they put this advert out. Don't buy this jacket. That's their jacket. And they're telling you not to buy it. So they're saying about how we should reduce, repair, reuse, and recycle. And finally, reimagine. So together we reimagine a world where we take only what nature can replace. And that's been their thing all along. They've always offered repair. You can send your stuff back to them and they'll repair it and send it back. And if they can't repair it, they'll replace it for you. They also say once it's worn out, they'll also recycle it for you. And then they'll figure out how to recycle it themselves. And ultimately reimagine, how can we just consume what we need to consume without destroying the planet? Similarly, another Black Friday, forget about 1% for the planet, which is a movement to try and get all organizations donating 1% of their income to the planet. They donated 100% of their sales on Black Friday to grassroots environmental groups. So again, reiterating what their purpose is. Their purpose is to protect the environment. We're clear about that. We've seen it in so many angles of what they're doing. We've seen it with the way they treat staff as well, encouraging their staff to be outside, but to do it in the proper way. Another one, here we go. So facing extinction, I strike for climate action. Tell Congress there is no room in government for climate deniers. Text climate to 71333, sponsored by Patagonia. So here they are again, showing that they care for the environment. And it's not just them speaking, you've seen the actions that they do as well, telling you to send in your stuff if you want it repaired, telling you not to buy their stuff if you don't need it. It's repeated, it's consistent, and it's clear. Now, not as any company, you can't always get it right. When you can't get it right, you have to be transparent about it. So you'll see like H&M with saying, oh, well, we do burn, but only on these occasions. And then VW just trying to cover up the whole thing. Patagonia publishes what's going wrong. They write blogs about it. So here's the thing, back to Taiwan again. When they found out that people were charging migrant workers to get a job, that's when they stepped in. And underneath that, you see this hazardous material that they noticed. And they wrote a blog about it. And that blog's been updated to let you know how they're trying to remove all toxic materials in their products. So again, very transparent, very clear, very open. So before anyone can report on them, they're already reporting. And if you try and find some bad news about Patagonia, it's interesting, because the people writing like the whatever, if there's been bad press or something happened in a factory or something to do with chemicals, there's always a link back to Patagonia showing what they're doing about it, not just denying that they do it or saying they do it for a reason, but actually talking through it and where they're trying to get to. One of the things Patagonia did right in the beginning was to do with climbing and the equipment used for climbing. They created this really strong, amazing thing, and they noticed that it started damaging the rock face. So they stopped that line completely. So it was their most profitable line, but they saw the damage it was doing, and they're climbers. So they thought, hell, like we don't want this damage. We want to go climbing, and we want our next generation and the next generation and the next generation to go climbing. So we can't damage it. And they stopped that line completely, where other companies would continue, and they give you the option to make that choice if you want to damage. Be authentic. Authentic's a word that gets thrown around a lot, but be authentic for me means kind of, again, talking, like not just talking about what you're going to do, but really doing it, and on multiple levels. So when it comes to Patagonia, it's not just the company that's delivering, it's also their owners. Christine Tompkins, former CEO, along with some other companies in the same sector, were buying parts of Patagonia, which is in Chile. And then they collected all these pieces of land, these parcels of land, put it together, set it aside millions of acres, and making national parks for the Chilean government to look after. So something crazy, right? Like, it's not just the company that's doing it, it's the people running the company. We hear a lot about, say, Elon Musk and Bezos and what's his name, Bill Gates, that guy. And you hear about what they're doing with their billions. But this one for me is very concrete, and it's linked to exactly what they're into. And buying lots of land to then give back to a government so it can be preserved as a national park is something that really sets themselves ahead of the rest. And it continues. Who knows what's next? So when we're thinking about purpose, when we're thinking about the purpose, either your own purpose or the purpose of your company, you've got to really look at what's out there already, as with any marketing plan, and see what works and what doesn't work, see who you believe and who you don't believe, because ultimately you want to get your customers involved in a story that is consistent, that's authentic, and that's honest. I wrote here that anyone can write an emotional story or brag about changing their hosting providers. Anyone can set a carbon neutral target or employ someone from an underrepresented demographic. But just like marketing, purpose isn't a one-off, it's a constant. You have to constantly be doing it, and you have to be constantly doing it in the right way with the same messages, so that people really know that your purpose is something you believe in. It isn't a PR exercise, and it isn't greenwashing, because after all of that, truth is powerful and it prevails. So even when you try and sell something that you're not really invested in, people will find out the truth that you're not actually invested in it, and it destroys your whole marketing. People will come after you, just like they have with H&M, just like they have with Volkswagen, and just as they'll always keep doing with other companies that aren't really delivering what they say they're going to do. So that's everything I have to say now. We're opening up the questions to the panelists, not to the panelists, sorry, to the audience. Anyone on Facebook or on Zoom, send questions through. I'd like to hear about your own kind of link with purpose as well. Have you tried marketing your purpose? What is your purpose, either as a company or an individual? And how are you sharing this with people? Do you need to share it with people? Some of us don't need to share our purpose with people. In fact, for some people, it can be quite off-putting. If you're dealing, say, B2C, business to customer, and your customer's not really interested in some of this stuff, as we talked about earlier, millennials are interested in hearing more about it. But if what you're doing isn't really interesting to them, you might focus on another marketing point. be it a lower cost or whatever your other marketing points are. So feel free to share that. I'm going to go now and I'm going to stop sharing this, and then you can see my lovely face. So put any comments in Zoom.
We have one question.
Cool.
And what are the main differences between social enterprises in Croatia and England? That's first.
Okay. Main differences. Well, I'd say, well, there's not as many in Croatia by far. There's not as much support in Croatia. The definition is still a bit loose in Croatia. Like, people haven't really got a main. They haven't really agreed on it too much. Or when you hear different people talking about social enterprise, you'll hear different kind of viewpoints. And that's linked to the strategy as well. So in the UK, we have a legal structure which defines clearly that a social enterprise should make more than 50% of its income through trading on the market, that 65% of the profit should be invested into your social or environmental goals, that you should produce an impact report every year. Whereas in Croatia, it's 25% of your income should come from the market, which for me is quite low. 75% of your profits need to be reinvested into your social or environmental goals, which, you know, reinvested or invested are two different things again. Impact report. There's a few other things in Croatia as well that are fairly similar to the UK. So ultimately, there are loads of differences in terms of the sector itself, but in terms of actual social enterprises, they're quite similar. You know, they're run by people that have a lot of heart, that have maybe some business support now, that they want to change the community they live or the community they live with or environment or something like that. They're passionate about it. And maybe the market's a lot smaller here. And like I said, the support's a lot smaller. And maybe that's been a bit of a kind of a barrier to growth in Croatia, as well as general knowledge about it. I also know there are a lot of people here that are social enterprises and they don't really know it because the term isn't that commonly used. In the UK, social enterprise doesn't really have any connotations, whereas here again, like društveno poduzetništvo or socijalno poduzetništvo, people, I heard a sad story today actually where a group of people just struck off the društveno because they thought it was linked to something from socialism. And they were like, well, why they put that in there? Not actually knowing what the concept is. So that's pretty damning. So a lack of awareness, more need for that. Feel free to ask any other questions if that doesn't answer.
Okay, there are some more questions.
Mm-hmm.
Second, what are your views on Croatian businesses in terms of purpose?
In terms of purpose, well, again, it's a whole spectrum. I wouldn't even say it's really linked to one country in particular. I'm just from England, so I have that to draw on as well. Businesses in terms of purpose, I'm trying to think. I don't think it's like I'm able to read Croatian and I see Croatian adverts as well. I don't really see too much promotion based on purpose, except for local and organic. They're the two big ones I see, because Croatians, and this is the same again in the UK, people like to buy local products. They like to think they're supporting the small man, you know, the guy down the road or the woman down the road. But they're the two main ones. I don't really see anyone really committing to anything to do with environment too much, although again, that's changing a little bit. I've seen a few things from bigger companies. I think, I can't remember which one. It wasn't Ina, but it was someone that's crazy enough like that to say that they've got like a sustainability thing as well. Yeah, I'd say that they're my views. Like, you don't hear it as much as in the UK, but maybe that's my lack of being exposed to it on TV. I don't watch Croatian TV either, so all the stuff I see is on online. But I do know there's a few companies making moves in doing stuff with the local community, raising money for the local community and stuff like that, from the IT sector as well. So.
Okay, we have also the third. Why is everyone separating businesses from social businesses? Shouldn't all businesses be social?
Oh, yes, let's live in a utopian world. They would all be. The reason we're separating businesses from social business is I get asked a lot, what's the point of being a social enterprise? Why should I open a social enterprise? If you ask me that, then you just don't get it ultimately. Like, I didn't open a social enterprise to make millions, because a social enterprise could make millions, but you've also got to balance the people and the planet with your profit. And the purpose of separating businesses from social businesses is to really show where the purpose runs through the whole organization, such as a social business, and those where it's maybe just a part of it, a department, a corporate social responsibility department, društveno odgovornost poduzeća, just a department, rather than being something throughout the whole business. And I think that's why they separate. I talked about greenwashing before. A lot of businesses do that to make you think that they're more social. That's why they separate. Shouldn't all businesses be social? Well, yeah, they should. Surely every company should care about the environment and their people and pay them a living wage and support them in parenthood and through illnesses and stuff like that. However, that's not the world we live in, because we're all after cheap convenience. I say all, not everyone, obviously, but a lot of us are after cheap convenience, which comes at a price to other people or the planet. So.
Okay, you mentioned that Croatian market is small. There is not much talk in Croatia about social entrepreneurship. And the question is, what are the potentials of social entrepreneurship in Croatia today?
It's a really young market, immature market, social enterprise here, which means that anyone joining now really has the opportunity to shape it, which is a good or a bad thing, depending on who joins, right? This is another good and bad thing. There's going to be a lot of funding out for social enterprise. I guess the potentials anywhere in the world is that as a social enterprise, you're able to apply for funding for the social side of stuff that you do, as well as like the innovation and business side. Yeah. So if you go to some other social enterprises, you've seen that they've won awards and funding and grants for, say, involving vulnerable people or employing people with say, from hard to employ backgrounds. And at the same time, you've seen them winning startup awards. Like Get in the Ring, we had Get in the Ring in Split. There's a social enterprise that won that a few years ago. So I guess that's the potential, that you'll have access to this funding. But the pitfall with that is, lots of social enterprise they can't, because but lots of social enterprises get funding, become reliant on funding, and don't make an entry into the market. They don't have enough people buying their goods, and they fail. So the potential is also the potential downfall. Does that make sense?
Okay, we also have one interesting question. What is the purpose of your business?
Purpose of my business is to support young people in Croatia, develop business ideas and develop an entrepreneurial mindset. And I do this through working with schools, which last year I did through my own company. That's where my profit went. This year I was fortunate enough to actually be headhunted to run a project related to that. And the schools, actually, I think Sanders here from Studentski, the schools have just finished producing a Mediterranean-based food product, which they will then sell. It's meant to be as healthy as possible, using local products. For example, Hvar, they've gone and harvested salt from Hvar, and then they've infused it with either mali plavac, with local herbs, or it's just plain sea salt. And they'll be selling that to hopefully raise funds for their graduation dance at the end of the year. So that's the social side of things, is to help them pay for that. So so doing that, and also helping you guys out at SPE whenever you need me to, supporting young entrepreneurs and student entrepreneurs, pushing them forward. If there's ever a social enterprise, then obviously, already I'm here to help them as much as I can, and offer them whatever they need. So.
Nice to hear it. Next question is, how do you see IKEA as an example in comparison to Patagonia?
IKEA, I don't really see them as a big comparison to Patagonia. When I think of IKEA, I think of cheap, hard to assemble, short term, quick fix. I don't know how sustainably sourced all their wood is. And when you say sustainably sourced wood, what that really means, because you can't grow a forest, cut it down, grow a forest, cut it down, grow, you're killing the soil each time. I'd have to do a bit more research into what IKEA had done. But for me, Patagonia, they stand at they're way ahead of the rest. I don't know, is IKEA registered as a B Corp as well? I haven't heard of them being registered as a social enterprise. So I'd have to do a bit more research into that before commenting. But at the moment, I don't really compare the two.
Okay, next question is here mostly NGOs are going into social enterprises. Is that a right way of developing social enterprises?
I don't think there's not really it's not a wrong way for sure. It's great to have a mix of people creating social enterprise. So people leaving the private sector, people going straight into the social enterprise sector, and also people coming from the NGO sector. I think definitely in the beginning, you see a lot of NGOs pushing into social enterprise. A lot of them are forced to. So actually the first social enterprise I set up, we were kind of forced to do it because it was 2008, start of the recession, we'd lost some funding and we needed to start something to bring in extra funding. And it was basically I had a limited time in my job to create funding for myself. So then I set up a coffee shop, which employed and got recovering drug and alcoholics back into work, or people or ex-convicts as well. So yeah, that came from an NGO doing it. And then other ones I've seen as well, schools getting involved in it as well to create extra income streams. Unfortunately, thinking about it now, I have seen it's come in many cases from a lack of support from other areas. So for example, you think, I'm not talking about Croatia now, this was in another country, but lack of school funding leads schools in other countries to then try and find money themselves, which is crazy, right? Surely education should be funded from our taxes. So there's no wrong way of doing it. I think it's just about getting the right team together and having that balance of head and heart. So business head with your compassionate heart to make sure that when you have that triple bottom line, it's not just your purpose, your social goal. You've got to make money. Otherwise, if you're not making money, you'll collapse, and then your service users or whoever that depend on you, unfortunately, get dropped down with you, which can be really bad for some groups of people that you might work with.
Okay. Next question is about projects on islands. What kind of purpose in this context you see potential there?
The islands are obviously complex places, and every island's very different, but Arch has loads of ferries and it's 50 minutes away, whereas Vis has 2 ferries a day, a catamaran as well, if you're lucky, if it's not Yulga or a strong Yulga. So in this context, really, I hope to show the kids that they can create something from the island, from the resources they have there, that it's a good place to live as well, and to raise a family if that's what they're into. I never tell people not to try moving abroad, because here I am living in Croatia, so it would be a bit hypocritical. And it's great to travel. So in terms of purpose in this context, maybe strengthening communities there, and showcasing that the island's not just a nice place for a holiday, and looking at ways of bringing people together to create value, but in a positive way that's going to keep a bit of culture, keep traditions, keep the land fertile and stuff like that, healthy, organic, and instead of it just being, okay, let's build a hotel on this piece of land, that kind of, I guess that's the purpose, I'd say.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there any questions, or that's all?
Well, I shared my email at the beginning. I'm happy for anyone, if they've got any questions, ideas, anything, just get in touch with me. I'm always happy to talk about, say, social enterprise ideas, or just to talk about the sector in general and what's going on. And what was the other thing I want to say? Somebody said earlier about opportunities, like just to give you a bit of context, what I said there was a European social fund recently available for social enterprise existing and ones that wanted to be. And that was a lot of money. And I know that's all going through now. So from Split, a couple of people applied, so hopefully they'll get funded. And that will help us promote here locally anyway, along with partners in these other places we know, in Čakovec, in Zagreb, in Vinkovci, all over, Križevci, all over. So.
Thank you. And we got the last question. What businesses in Croatia would you highlight as having good impact on society or environment?
Okay, so what businesses in Croatia? The ones, so in terms of environment, this is it. People aren't promoting this. Like the ones I can name are social enterprises. Humana Nova in Čakovec, they do a lot to reduce landfill, waste of clothes. They recycle, they upcycle, they have a second-hand shop. They're doing stuff there. And then you have kind of more campaign awareness. You've got a couple of those upcycle, recycle stuff as well. You've got Rome in Zagreb, who are upcycling waste again into cool little things for the house. Who else have you got? You've got, say, Brodoto doing stuff with crowdfunding. Before they were doing a lot more about CSR and getting people to show their impact. And then when I'm thinking about funds that are out there that you could, that are trying to have a good impact on society, say. So one of the most well-known social enterprise funds is funded by Philip Morris. Now, I'm not going to say they're having a good impact on society or the environment. And then you've got a few other ones from banks as well. Banks offering stuff for social startups. Again, I'm not going to comment on them having a good impact on society or environment. I haven't done enough research to say if they are or not. Croatian companies, Konzum, is that still Croatian?
We don't know.
No, we don't know. Did that ever have a good impact? I think there's a severe lack of it. Hopefully there's going to be a bit more calling for it. But as we know, unfortunately, there's not a lot of protesting in Croatia for these things necessarily. You've got like Bio and Zrno. So they're doing a lot to do with production of organic food. And doing it in a way that maximizes use of the space, and I think the thing with Croatia, which is great, is a lot of there are so many small SMEs out there and OPGs and stuff. Whereas actually, if we buy from them, we can have a great impact ourselves as consumers. We're investing in the local supply chain, so we're avoiding having to bring things a long way, which is great for the environment. The money's going back into the local society. We've got tourism here as well, so that's bringing money in from outside. So ultimately, it's up to us to make the most of these SMEs, OPGs that we have around us at the moment, so that we can have a good impact on society or environment, rather than expecting bigger companies as we do in the UK, because ultimately we couldn't grow anything like you have here in the UK. So we've become dependent on these big companies, which is why they've then become dependent on what we want from them. So in terms of businesses in Croatia, let's support the ones that we know are having a good impact already, and put a bit of pressure on those that are moving here now to try and get them to continue thinking about those local suppliers and stuff. Rather than seeing these Facebook posts of people throwing away all of their produce of the year, their zucchinis or whatever that we saw, watermelons that we saw this year and stuff like that. But there are lots of other businesses in Croatia. I'm not going to go through them all now. But most of them class themselves as social enterprises from what I know.
Okay, I think that's all, folks, for today. Thank you, Michael, very much for this lecture and interesting conversation. So now we can close this meeting. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, Zvone. Thank you, Lana, for arranging all this, as always. She's in the background.